各位观众大家好，欢迎收看邓洪说法节目，我是美国联邦律师邓洪，让知法守法，据理力争。11月8号的选举很快就要到来了在这个将来这几个礼拜，我会针对这个一些选举的候选人，还有一些提案，我会做一些深度的分析今天我想介绍一个这个选举的话非常重要，对我们 Chinatown 来说至关重要的，这个就是洛杉矶市的检察长的这个职位。洛杉矶我们有很多的华人居住在这个 Chinatown， 不过说这个现在越来越多的华人是往San Gabriel 的西区东区搬了，不过 Chinatown 还是我们华人的象征我们这个很多游客到了 Chinatown 到了洛杉矶一定要到 Chinatown 里边去看一下子，以后去买点东西。有一些外州来的朋友要到到 Chinatown 来体验一下子我们华人的风土人情，吃个饭以后到处去走走同时在里边也有一个叫华美博物馆这个看一下子洛杉矶华人的历史，这些东西都是非常可以说是旅游的景点。不过过去2年洛杉矶也出现了很多这些问题，可以看得出过去洛杉矶这个游民问题越来越多，相加苦不堪言尤其是有抢的，有很多这个偷的基本上警察不管。然后这个国泰老人中心老人公寓300多名老人家，这个电梯坏掉没有人管这些都是这个要这个替老人家主持公道，往往市政府的话置之不管。在这个洛杉矶出现那么多的问题，包括在我们 Chinatown 旁边的话，这个 Union Station 火车基本上的话每经过这个 Chinatown 附近的话都是大批的夹车这个人士跑到火车上面的话来偷东西，但是警察也没办法，警察抓了人，检察官也不起诉，所以这些问题的话都是出现很大的问题，就是检察官。在美国议员是立法，执法是检察官来执法过去2-3年我们洛杉矶民众付出了很大的代价，就是检察长 George Gascon 他不起诉刑事案件，警察逮捕了但是不起诉，等于警察白抓人，抓了人也不起诉，所以警察没有这个动力去抓人，去逮捕，去维护治安。抓了人起诉了以后，法官以后因为法规的改变也是不用保释就让他出来了，所以前科累累的人抓进去，过2天出了庭又放出来了。所以我们不单只在立法上面的话要投一些比较执法维护治安的议员、众议员、参议员同时我们在执法机构方面的话也要选出一个能够依法起诉罪犯的这样的检察长。洛杉矶检察长这是洛杉矶市政府的一个重要机构，他扮演2个角色，一个是所有的轻罪案件在洛杉矶市里边发生的好像醉酒驾车啦，还说有一些是家庭暴力案件、项链偷盗案件，这些的话洛杉矶市警察局抓了人以后他就交给检察官起诉。洛杉矶县警察局局长的话他是 George Gascon， 他是属于 County， 洛杉矶有88个城市，有一些城市大部分的轻罪案件在洛杉矶市以外的都是由洛杉矶县警察县的DA 检察长来起诉洛杉矶市内发生的轻罪案件是市检察长来起诉，同时这个重罪的话就算发生在洛杉矶市里边也是交给检察长来起诉的。所以很多时候如果现在出现很多这种偷东西这个检察官这个 Mike Fields 他不起诉也出现问题。像所以的话我们要选出一个是能够执法，警察抓了人以后可以这个起诉的这样子的一个检察官 而在过程之中里边的话，现在有2个候选人，一个里边的话是来自巴基斯坦的这个叫做 Fasil Gill， 另外一名的话叫是 Heidi Phil Stan Soto。这2名背景不一样，立场截然不同。这个部分里边的话，我想今天的话来介绍一下这2个人的一些重大的区别。Gill 他是巴基斯坦来了之后，他原来是共和党的，在 Virginia 长大，东部以后的话，后来这个共和党的话，他这个在这个国土安全署里面做律师，后来呢出来自己的话，他来了洛杉矶，2019年来了洛杉矶就做律师，以后告了洛杉矶市警察局，以后告赢了官司，赚了钱了。他自己每一个来到，自从在每一个州他都选举，都会参选。对他来说，他希望能够从政，所以他只要能够当选，他一下子是共和党，一下子是这个民主党。他这次初选是用民主党的身份初选的。他的几个理念的话，都是得到激进派支持的。他说他上台之后，第一个事情要做的话，就是马上终止头100天终止不起诉，来进行检察的政策。他希望的话能够从轻发热，在100天之内的话，他什么案子都不起诉，所以就像等于这个犯罪分子的这个假期了，你可以来洛杉矶犯罪，他们都不会惩罚。另外一方面，他不会挑战现在这个流浪汉的问题。他说游民也有权利，所以的话他有权利的话，我们不能够驱逐游民的这个居住在街道上，这是人权。他告了洛杉矶市警察局，他说他这个当选检察长一定要从严执法，起诉这个洛杉矶市警察局的警员。这个的话有点这个离谱，他不知道他的工作的话，他除了这个要起诉之外，另外市检察长的办公室还是代表洛杉矶市政府的律师，也就是说警察局被告了，他要替警察辩护；市长市议员被告了，他也要这个替这个市长市议员做辩护律师。然后市政府要告别人，别人告市政府，都是检察长办公室所负责的，所以2部分。所以他的立场我不明白，他为什么要做检察官的职位，因为基本上呢，就是说他要，因为美国是一个所谓 adversary 对立的一个制度，检察官起诉，那有辩护律师辩护，如果是警察局犯错了，民权律师告。而你现在的话，基本上就像旧金山的检察长一样，你是公辩律师当上检察长，就是这个将狼放到鸡群里边去，让你随便吃吧。所以的话，你作为看鸡群的这个狗，应该是防住狼进来的。而没想到的话，你让狼到个鸡群里边的话去占光，那基本上的话就是等于这个角色真的是不是对立的了。所以 Gill 的话是他自己得到激进派的支持，拿到了200多万外州来的激进派的捐款，所以他在筹款方面是领先的。另外一个的话也不是职业的政客出身，他是一个律师，名字叫做 Heidi Phil Stan Soto， 我们叫他 Heidi。他的中文名字叫苏海迪。苏海迪他自己出生在这个Costa 是中南美洲来的。17岁他移民来美国。他进了哥伦比亚法学院之后，他在华尔街的大律师事务所里边的话做金融。他这个做了30多年律师，退休下来之后，他完全可以这个享受，不过他还是承担自己照顾自己父母的责任。 我们中国人的三代同堂，他跟他儿子还有这个母亲都住在一起，来照顾自己92岁的母亲。他自己要竞选，他的原则是3个理念。他说，第一，我要解决流浪汉的问题，因为游民太多了。以后现在建游民的部分的话，本来5万块钱可以建好的一个小房子，没想到花了80万，市政府花了那么多的钱，还是建造不出来，都是这些官僚体制。而在这些官僚体制里边的话，他希望作为检察官，作为市政府的律师，他能够从简处理，对游民建筑的话推动，尽快的解决游民的问题。第二个的话，他要求保护我们自己的社区跟安全他觉得的话，我们这个警察还有检察官是执法机构，我们必须要维护社会治安，替社区民众受害人做主，起诉这些犯罪从严处理。第三个里边的话，就是要求清除市政府目前出现的这种腐败问题。洛杉矶市政府你可以看得出，过去3年4年里边的话，腐败的案子一个接着一个，从市长他的助手性侵，到市议员他自己跟南加大这个利益沟通诉讼这个2名这个市议员被我们华人开发商收买以后的话，来这个推动这个旅馆的建设到这种现在目前的话所有的这些3名拉丁裔的议员关上门里边的话，这个种族歧视这些这个骂其他族裔、骂黑人、骂同性恋这些东西的话，都是非常这个可以说是 hypocrite， 是这伪君子的这种情形。所以我今天的话有幸跟我另外一个律师张律师，他是第3代的华裔律师，也是一个非常优秀的律师我在当年念法学院的时候这个我一边做记者这个一边在法学院念书当时学费确实是非常困难这个因为我太太也在念书，我自己一份工要供2个人念书，确实很困难。但是张律师他当时是华人律师这个工会的会长，他知道我的困难，他特别的话帮我争取了奖学金替我分担了我的法学院的学费所以因为这层友谊这个是30年以前的事情。不过的说我非常感恩这个张律师，当他说这个 Daniel 你帮忙推荐一下子这个海底给我们华人社区，因为他是一个非常优秀的，能够真的是为整个社区，为我们华人社区这个维护正义的一个检察长希望我来介绍所以今天我在特别的节目里边，我来介绍跟张律师一起来介绍这名可以说值得我支持，值得我们华人支持的这个检察长候选人苏海迪律师谢谢大家的收看。我们希望的话，在这个如果大家这个有钱出钱，有力出力我会将他的网站放在我们那个视频的简介的部分谢谢大家的收看，祝大家有一个愉快的周末。Good afternoon. It's good to see everybody. And today I have two special guests with me. The first guest is my mentor, Curtis Zhang, a brilliant lawyer, a very activist in our community. I get to know Curtis 30 years ago when I was a reporter, and he was the president of SCALA, Southern California Chinese Lawyer Association, which is a civil rights organization compliant with Chinese American lawyer. It was established by our first Chinese American judge, federal judge, Judge Ronald Lu, along with a lot of Chinese activists. In that organization, I get to know a lot of Chinese American who's willing to fight for a community, and Curtis is one of them. And today, Curtis is going to introduce another good friend of us to our community, to urge our community to support her for the city attorney's job. Curtis, why don't you say a few words and also introduce our special guest?
Thank you very much, Daniel. Good afternoon, everyone. Daniel, that was a very gracious introduction, but thanks to you and acknowledgement to you for all of your success and accomplishments in the community. You are our community leader in the Chinese American community here in Southern California, and we appreciate all that you have done for all of us. And thank you. As Daniel mentioned, my name is Curtis Zhang, and I've been a practicing lawyer here in Southern California for many years, for decades.
And also, Curtis, before I forgot, besides what you have done for our community in the Chinese American community, you have done a lot, to volunteer your time. You're a very good litigator, and we label you as the ninja, Chinese ninja litigator. And also, you're on the board of the Los Angeles County Natural Museum, and actually you're the president of the board now. That's the reason we could see the dinosaur in the background, because Curtis, he is truly a community-oriented attorney. He not only volunteer for our community, but he spent a lot of time and make sure our children getting the best museum in the country. And I think thank you, Curtis, for your time and effort.
Thank you, Daniel, and that explains why I have the background here with T-Rex and the Triceratops. This is from the LA County Natural History Museum, where I am honored to serve on the Board of Governors through the LA County for many years. So this is one way I promote and market the wonderful museums here in LA County, which are the best, one of the best in the nations here in Exposition Park. But anyways, that's enough about me. We are here because we have a very special guest, and her name is Heidi Feldstein Soto, and I have the honor of introducing her. I am going to refer her as Heidi and not Ms. Soto, because that's what she prefers. Heidi Feldstein Soto is the leading candidate for the Los Angeles City Attorney's race, with an election date coming up early November, just a few weeks from now, on November 8th, here in the city of Los Angeles. This is a very important race, and we have to do everything to make sure that Heidi is elected as the LA City Attorney, because we need her. We need her experience, we need her expertise, and we need her in this very important office. And it is an honor that she is here with us. Heidi comes from a very impressive background, very well educated, with graduate degrees from Swarthmore as well as Columbia Law School. She practiced at various law firms and has been here in Los Angeles for decades. And she is running because, as we all know, LA City is in a crisis. It is a mess, and we need someone to clean up this mess. And she is the one that is going to do it for us. The Chinese community supports Heidi Soto. Just so you know, along with us community leaders in the Chinese community, there are others. The largest Asian Chinese American bank, East West Bank, is behind and supporting Heidi. We are supporting Heidi. So when you vote on November 8th, you have to vote for Heidi, or even before, because ballots are being sent out. So she is here to present her platform, to talk about her campaign and what she's going to do for this great city. And I leave it up to you, Daniel. And here she is, Ms. Heidi Feldstein Soto.
Heidi, why don't you introduce yourself to us?
Thank you so very much. I'm Heidi Feldstein Soto, and it is a pleasure and an honor to be here with you both, and to have the opportunity to address the Chinese American community here in California, which has been such a very big part of our economy, of our diversity, of our civic life for the entire time that I've been in Los Angeles. And that's a very long time. Mm-hmm. I moved to Los Angeles in 1982, and this is my home. And I practiced law here for many years. I was raised my family here, and I now live in mid-city Los Angeles in a duplex with my 92-year-old mother and with my pup, my rescue dog. My son has moved back east. I have come to this job out of a real desire to serve. I want to help fix everything that seems to have gone downhill since I moved to LA. I have no political ambition beyond the city attorney's office. I'm a lawyer by background and training. And at the age of 64, I am not looking to move on to Washington, D.C. or Sacramento or the mayor's office. I want to stay right here in my home and help to fix the biggest problems that face us, from the rise in crime and the erosion of public safety to the crisis that is in our streets in terms of homelessness, to the corruption that permeates City Hall. I am 100% committed to stay in this job and use every tool in the city attorney's legal toolkit to address those three priorities. I will prosecute crimes. I will respond to the elder abuse and the financial scams that are coming out against any number of our people. I will have zero tolerance for hate crimes, including in the AAPI community, in the Jewish community, in the Black community. There is simply no room in the city of Los Angeles for that kind of intolerance. And my commitment to you is this: I will not rest until we have an LA that works for us all.
Yeah, Heidi, I think one of the things that, as the city attorney, you're both representing the people of the city of Los Angeles, but also you're representing the city hall. Now, there's two jobs that, one is the prosecutor. You're prosecuting all the misdemeanor cases in Los Angeles. Right now, people are fed up with what's happening on our street. Many of the looting and shoplifting are not being prosecuted, especially people steal the stuff for under 900. They did not bother to prosecute. What will you do differently today?
No one wants to make being poor or being homeless a crime, but nobody wants to normalize criminal behavior just because it's committed by someone who's poor or someone who's unhoused. At the end of the day, we are a country of laws. We have to follow the rule of law, and we have to apply the law fairly and equitably across the city for the protection of our communities and for the protection of the victims that are either in our communities or that are living on our streets. There is a lot of crime in unhoused encampments, and it's something that the police and the city attorney need to address.
Near Chinatown, there's a Union Station, and a lot of Chinese residents living in Chinatown area. They know that the train passed by, and there are a lot of people rooting on the train, and nothing had been done. Many people who just robbed everything, and your opponent, Mr. Gill, mentioned that when he becomes city attorney, he would have 100 days of moratorium, and he would not prosecute anything. Now, do you agree with that?
That's terrible. That's one of the worst ideas I've ever heard. I mean, if you think about it, We might as well put out a sign for the world to see and say, bad guys come to Los Angeles, because we have a city attorney who's promised not to charge and not to prosecute misdemeanors for 100 days. It's like a free-for-all on our city. And I don't understand the point of a pause. Moreover, it is the job of the city attorney to enforce the laws. If he doesn't want to enforce the law, then he ought to be seeking a different kind of job. He could be a public defender, he could go work for the ACLU, but he has no business applying to be our city attorney.
Well, one of the things happening in Chinese community for the last year is that 80% of our residents, they come out and sign petition and trying to recall District Attorney George Gascon. What we're afraid is that the city attorney, Mr. Gill, going to become another George Gascon. And now, coming from, in the Chinese community, we're also concerned. We want to have a law and order and tougher prosecutor. And you don't have a prosecution background. What would you do differently? Because prosecuting is a little bit different than a corporate work. How would you carry out your job as a prosecutor now if you get elected?
Let's put it this way: the office has 550 lawyers and another 500 employees. There are career prosecutors, including at least one of the individuals who ran in the primary and who has now endorsed me, in the city attorney's office. So, for example, Richard Kim and his colleagues are part of the criminal law department within the city attorney's office. I would rely on the career prosecutors in that job, much as I have to rely on the expertise of the people who've been there to handle individual cases. The city attorney's job is to set policy and to manage the office and to ensure that the treatment of our communities and our citizens is equitable and consistent across the city. It isn't to get involved in each individual case. We have lawyers, we have prosecutors, we have folks in that office who are highly competent, and they need to be able to do their jobs with a boss who's going to have their back. And I'm going to do that.
I'm glad that Mr. Richard Kim is endorsing you, because Mr. Kim get very well known in our Asian community, because he's the one who stuck up for the 300 senior who could not, who live in an apartment, doesn't have elevator, and Mr. Kim was able to prosecute the owner of the building. I think if you could engage and having Mr. Kim leading the prosecution of those crime. We know that Mr. Kim is a law and order prosecutor, a career one. Now for the civil part, your opponent, Mr. Gill, mentioned that he would prosecute, he would sue the Los Angeles PD for the and held the LAPD accountable. Actually, he has sued LAPD and and every city. Isn't it a little bit, you running for a job and you suing that one, a little bit, conflict interest in a sense, but at the same time, you as once you become a city attorney, you're the attorney for the city, for LAPD and for the city council. And how will you carry out your job differently from Mr. Gill?
I think that the city attorney has an obligation to make sure that the city is functioning the way it should. So making sure that the training of our officers is appropriate, making sure that the guidelines for what kind of force they're supposed to use in any given situation is clear and they're trained for it. But if a city employee crosses over the line and commits an act that is prosecutable, I believe the city attorney's role is to refer it to the district attorney, or refer it to the attorney general of the state of California, or refer it to the U.S. attorney. No lawyer should be suing her own client. That's not appropriate. And there's something a little bit backwards about my opponent saying that he doesn't want to prosecute misdemeanors when committed by a third party, but he does want to prosecute police officers who are sworn to keep us all safe. That just seems to me to be backwards from the way the office is supposed to work.
Well, I think probably he did not understand that, the city attorney could only prosecute misdemeanor, and all the corruption, they're federal crime or the felony crime. When they're talking about all these years, for the last 4 years, we're seeing two former city council member being prosecuted in the federal court because they commit serious crime. And, but
let me be clear about something. I will have zero tolerance for corruption at City Hall. Zero. From my perspective, there's a lot that the city attorney can do to shut down the opportunity for corruption that right now permeates City Hall left and right. I will not sign off on no bid contracts. I will make sure that our city, as part of its procurement process, affords every community the opportunity to bid on contracts, whether it's the Chinese American community or the Latino community or the African American community. We all ought to have an opportunity to bid and to provide the city with the best deal possible. Today, our department heads all too often simply hand out a contract without putting it out for bid. All too often, the city overpays by up to 10 times what the market is for what the city builds and what the city buys. I'm going to put a stop to that.
That's amazing.
That, to me, is the best way to stop corruption.
Well, when I read the reported that, for a little cubic house, it could build it for less than $50,000, but it costs $800,000 to build. That's outrageous. That's outrageous.
Without a kitchen or a bathroom.
Yeah.
I don't know how you spend that kind of money without a kitchen or a bathroom, but that's apparently what we're spending.
Well, I think, the city attorney should be the one who giving advice that, what you're doing is wrong. And if you do something like that, I have to go refer to, the DA's public integrity unit or have to report it, something like that. I mean, doesn't the city attorney have the obligation to sell more like a compliance, something like that? Make sure.
I was going to say, it's even easier than that. You don't have to let it get to the level of a criminal referral. What the city attorney can do is every contract for more than $5,000 has to come to the city attorney for approval as to due authority, legality, and form. And ask me how many contracts I'm going to approve that come in at 10 times market without putting it out for bid. The answer is zero. They're not going to get approved, not without a proper competitive bidding process and the city getting the kind of deal that would be available in the open market.
Well, one of the things that, when Mr. Kim was in our community, he made a comment about how he was solving the homeless problem because the city of Los Angeles did not stand up, and let, that's the reason, the homeless people, there's a lot of people who are not still on the street. And one of the things that, I think, what will you do if you get elected as a city attorney to help to solving the homeless problem in the city of Los Angeles?
Thank you for the question. I have a 6-point plan on my website, and it's very focused on what the city attorney can do. Because the city attorney can't go out and build housing. I can't take a hammer and nails and actually construct it. But what I can do is, number one, enforce the competitive bidding procedures of the city charter, as I just laid out, which hopefully would bring the cost down. Number two, change the form of the financing so that it actually meets current market conditions. We're using the same structure for funding housing that we used in 1995. After this long, it really needs to be updated. Number three, really go to the county and get our fair share of the resources from the county public health department for addiction and for mental health services. Number four, streamline the approval process so that when you come as an applicant or a developer, you can have one place to go in the city where the city then turns around and gets back to you with a consistent set of comments quickly within 30 days, as we are required to do under state law. And then finally, stop letting the perfect be the enemy of the good enough. We have to be building shelter and housing on all fronts. And that includes tiny homes, and that includes adaptive reuse, and that includes new construction. And if we streamline the approvals, we get the health dollars for the mental health services and the addiction services, and we build the housing at 1/10 of the cost. Here's the magic of the numbers. I like numbers, okay?
Mhm.
Right now, the Triple H money is scheduled to build 7,000 units. If you can actually cut the cost to market to 10%, to 200 to 300 a square foot, instead of 2,000 to 3,000 a square foot, for the same amount of money, you can build 70,000 units. That
Wow.
is 4 walls and a roof for everybody in our city who needs it. It just takes the political will, the determination, and working across lines to get to yes, rather than fighting about who's responsible.
Heidi, I used to cover politics. When I seeing that, they have their career depends on their job. Sometimes they had to, bow to the pressure from the people who support them, such a union and people like that. I like the fact that you're a very successful lawyer. You retire, you were a partner, and you make enough money already. And the things I like about you is that you don't have the ambitions to go higher up, to go to Sacramento or Washington D.C. You just want to clean up Los Angeles and let us get back our community. I think that's something that I really like about your platform. I think we have a huge population of Chinese, not only in Chinatown but also in San Fernando Valley, Northridge, Granada Hill. Are those areas also eligible to vote for the city attorney's position?
Absolutely, yes. If
Okay.
you go to the ballot and you look,
Mm.
if you're eligible to vote for Rick Caruso or Karen Bass,
Mm-hmm.
right below that on the ballot is Heidi Feldstein Soto and Faisal Gill. My name is spelled Hydeee, so sometimes people see it and don't recognize it.
Mm-hmm.
But I am the first name on the ballot under the title City Attorney. And I can promise you this is my home. After 40 years, I'm going to stay and fight to defend it for the benefit of all of us, so that I can live here comfortably,
Yes,
and in safety as I get older.
I think you came to the United States at the age 17. I think the immigrants, what we had gone through. You especially when you mentioned that you're still living with your mom who's 92 years old. In the Chinese culture, that's happiness is defined that 3 generations living together. I think we share a lot of family value, and I think what impressed me about it is rather than just sit here and then complaining what's happening in our community, you actually roll up the sleeves and then you want to do something. Because getting into politics, a lot of sacrifice. You have to do fundraising. You have to get the message out, and you have to listen to different people and trying to understand the problem. But I believe you were successful. You was a very successful lawyer, and you know how to spot issue and how to come up with a solution. Curtis, what were you? Do you have any question? Anything for our friend Heidi?
Yes, just some follow-up, and you covered it all, Daniel. Thank you. So Heidi, can you tell us about how the campaign is going and what you're still seeking? I understand you still need some funds. of course, you need people to vote. And if you could tell us about that, as well as your opponent, and why you're so much better than him. Why don't you explain all that?
Thank you. I always knew that if I was elected as city attorney, I would be making history. I would be the first woman to ever hold the job. I never expected to feel as though I was a warrior defending my city from someone who I think actually poses an existential threat to the way we live. My opponent moved here in 2019 and does not know our city particularly well. He lives in a gated community in Porter Ranch, and yet he advocates for permitting homeless encampments to remain on our streets and for there to be what he calls safe injection sites, places where people can go use drugs without being arrested. And of course, since he lives in a gated community, those are not issues he would ever have to deal with. He has run for office 3 times in 3 different states on 3 different platforms for 2 different parties. So he is actually seeking elected office no matter what. That is not who I am. I have never run for office before, and I can promise you this, I will run for no other office. Running for office is very hard, Curtis. You're absolutely right about that. I'll tell you, the only thing that's harder is sitting back and watching our city fall apart. I can't do that. And so I am called to public service. I'm called to try to do something to help. What does my campaign need? I always need money. But why do we need money? We need money to reach voters. I will tell you that I have been endorsed by just about every major organization and every major newspaper in the city. So I have been endorsed at this point by the Los Angeles Times, the Los Angeles Daily News, La Opinion, the Los Angeles Sentinel, the Long Beach Press Telegram, and I'm missing the Torrance Daily Breeze, and I'm missing some. I have interviewed with some of the Korean newspapers, and I'm hoping to interview with some of the Chinese American papers, and I'm hoping to receive additional endorsements there. I have been endorsed by 4 sitting council members. So I've been endorsed by Paul Krikorian, Monica Rodriguez, Curran Price, and Bob Blumenfield. I've been endorsed by Assembly Member Michael Fong and by Congressman Brad Sherman. You can go to my website, which is www.HYDEE, so that's my name, Heidi, the word for, F-O-R, cityattorney.com, and that will show you my priorities, everything I've talked about here today, my endorsements, and a little bit about me and my background. I'm trying to get the message out as much as possible. If you like what you hear, send emails to your friends and neighbors. Reach out to me and ask for a lawn sign. I will very happily deliver a sign or a banner that you can put out front of your home and let your neighbors know that you're supporting Heidi Feldstein Soto for city attorney. And I'm very accessible. If anybody wants to get in touch with me, I am more than happy to respond to individual questions. The last day to vote is November 8th, but ballots are out now. And if you are voting this weekend, please, under City Attorney Heidi Feldstein Soto for LA City Attorney.
Great, thank you so much. And then finally, in terms of the funds, if people want to make donations, they could go on your website and do so. I heard that your opponent spent so much money on his own campaign and is trying to buy the race. Is that?
I don't know
right?
where he gets his money from, Curtis. Okay, but here are the statistics. As of last week, Fassel-Gill had funded $1.59 million of his own money into this race. He had raised another $350,000 or so, but most of that is out of state. It's not even from Californians. It's from Virginians and Vermontians and Texans and all kinds of people. We did the math, and as of last week, he had raised less than $113,000 from anybody in California, not just LA. I, on the other hand, have very much of a grassroots campaign. I have put some of my own money into the race, as much as I can afford. So I put $75,000 into the primary and the general. And I can't afford much more than that. Most of my donations come not only from California, but actually from LA. And the best part is that I have qualified for matching funds from the city. So if what you can give is $5, the city of LA will give me $30 for your $5. If what you can give is $200, the city of LA will give me $1,200 for your $200. So there is a tremendous opportunity for me to access city public funding if I can get the backing of enough Los Angeles residents to do that.
Sounds great. I urge everybody, especially our viewer, if you live in the city of Los Angeles, go out to vote and vote for Heidi. Thank you, Heidi, and thank
you both.
Yeah, Curtis.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you.